Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rick To. I'm the Vice Chairman and the CEO of Bless Community Services. Welcome to our inaugural online community talk entitled Overcoming Fear, Anxiety, and Isolation in a COVID-19 World. Bless Community Services is a social service agency founded in 2008 to support the well-being of children, youth, adults, elderly, and families in a community. Our mission is to develop the potential of individuals, strengthen families, and foster communal bonding to enrich our society. Most recently, in November 2019, Blessed Community Services is also appointed to be the manager of the Safe Sound Sleeping Place in Yio Chu Kang Chapel. This is the place where we house the homeless and the rough sleepers to give them a place to sleep and to rest their head. So once again, we want to welcome you for this online community talk. For those who have just arrived, my name is Rick To, the Vice Chairman and CEO of Bless Community Services. Allow me now to give you some guidelines on how this webinar will flow. Let's go on to the next slide. If you would like to pose a question for our panelists, feel free to click on the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen and submit your questions. You can also scan through the existing questions and vote them. We will most likely follow the most popular questions that's been voted many times. If you face any technical issues and require any help, you can use the chat function, and we have a few hosts who will be helping you at the background. So I hope that this guidelines is sufficient. It will help you and you will have a good time finding that you're able to tune in and listen to our panelists. So before I invite the panelists up on stage, allow me to introduce the topic for today again to set the stage for our discussion. The next slide, please. We live in challenging times. In just a matter of months, the world as we know is no longer the same. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the world overnight. Economies are being disrupted in ways we have never experienced before, leading some to suggest that never has such a crisis been seen since World War II or the Great Depression. The WHO chief, Mr. Tedros, issued a sober warning recently. He said, make no mistake, we have a long way to go. This virus will be with us for a long time, and most countries are still in the early stages of their epidemics. And some that were affected early in the pandemic are now starting to see a resurgence in cases. The World Food Programme Executive Director, David Beasley, mentioned this on Tuesday. I want to stress that we are not only facing a global health pandemic, but also a global humanitarian catastrophe. Millions of civilians living in conflict-scarred nations are being forced or being pushed to the brink of starvation. This is the world that we're living in right now. Things have happened so fast that we might not have had time to think, and perhaps we might even feel afraid to do so. We could be battling tension, fears and anxieties within us, a sense of dread and impending doom. In addition, the safe distancing measures are impacting our relationships as we are unable to connect with our family members and friends like we usually do. We cannot meet face to face, nor we can communicate through touch, and we now rely heavily on online communication tools. Yet these digital platforms often mute non-verbal cues, which plays crucial roles in the way we relate to people, thus causing each one of us to feel isolated. So how can we handle our fears and anxieties? How can we help our seniors at home battle loneliness? And how can we overcome social isolation in this new world that we live in? So I'm going to invite now, I'll introduce the panelists to you. First and foremost, we want to introduce Ms. Posh Po. Ms. Posh Po currently serves as Executive Director of Silver Ribbon Singapore. She also holds several other portfolios, and I will just list two down here, including Social Service Fellow at NCSS, Board Member at World Federation for Mental Health, and Treasurer at RRCC SG. Then we have Dr. Tan Suin with us. Suin was first trained as a dentist. He also has a master's and has done doctoral work in the area of vocation and community. He is passionate about helping people flourish through authentic relationships. Together with his wife Bernice, Suin runs a publishing and training consultancy. Finally, we have Dr. Raja Velo. Raj is a consultant psychiatrist in the local hospital, and he has a special interest in community psychiatry and neurodevelopmental disorders. I'll now invite all of them upstage together with me. Hello, panelists. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Posh. Thank you, Suin, and thank you, Raj, for being available today for this discussion regarding the topic on overcoming fear, anxiety, and isolation in the COVID-19 world. Allow me to begin by asking you a question, and in hope that you can share your point of view and your perspective. We want to identify what we may be going through emotionally and mentally now. The stay-home notice, the quarantine orders, the working remotely, telecommuting, home-based learning, stay home, please, stay home orders, no shaking of hands, wear masks and therefore hiding our faces, no intermingling, not even visiting our extended family members who are living apart from you. How may this safe distancing impact each one of us psychologically, emotionally, and sociologically? Maybe I'll invite Posh to share with us her perspective.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Rick. Thank you so much for organizing this, along with all this very passionate panelists. The thing is, you mentioned the whole list of all those scary stuff, and we have received a lot of feedback from the ground on how worried they are. So recently there was a debate over essential and non-essential. So the thing is while waiting for this to start, I was drafting a list between the concern of those who are under the essential service and non-essential service. Of course, essential service will say that, hey, it's so nice for you to work from home, but having said that, no, the non-essential will say, I'm equally stressed at home as well. So let's look at some of the example. For example, the essential service will be, they might have fear of being infected or serving the customers, serving the community. And they have long working hours, not forgetting about that. Okay, the thing is most of the people talk about a lot of frontline healthcare workers, but not forgetting how about those working in the supermarket. And they are equally stressed as well, with after an announcement being made, the next moment you'll be expecting panic buying. So some of the supermarket got to start stocking up all the food and everything to get ready for the customer to queue out. And you talk about just supermarket? Not really. How about mini mart? So I remember one mini mart opposite my unit, and they are constantly stressed out. And the husband will start telling the wife, hey, look out for the number of people entering our store, if not, we'll get fined. So we talk about those essential service are equally important as well. For example, my team is working from home, offering online emotional counseling. But the daughter to the mom could be a granddaughter, they got to take care of the pets as well. So a whole list of responsibility besides the normal duties that they have to perform from work. And after that, and we keep on talking about, staying home is good, you must stay home. But the thing is, how about those with abusive family? You might be feeling stressed while working from home as well. So there are some staff working from home at the same time. They are worried about their pay. Will I be getting my pay? Will I be getting a pay cut? You know, so they are worried about their finances as well. So how about those self-employed working from home? This tension around, and just like Rick also mentioned about home-based learning. So some mothers were sharing they feel stressed out because not all mothers are equipped with all the skills and knowledge to guide their children. So equally stressed as well. That's what I want to share. I'll leave it to the rest of the panelists. Thank you.
Thanks, Posh. By the way, we actually received some intermittent audio from you. So probably you may try to adjust your audio or your connection in Wi-Fi, and that will help us. But what I hear from Posh basically is saying that be it you're at home, or be it you're at the front line, or be it you're at the supply chain, all of us are facing different kinds of pressure, right? Those who are on the front line, there's a fear of infection. Those who are actually working from home worry about the loss of income because they're not so sure whether it will be there, their rice bowl will be there in the next few months later. We also know that mothers and those who are working from home are feeling there are more responsibilities now. And also those who are working in supply chain is getting busier because they have to do a lot more work. And then you can identify with that. I have some friends who are working in supply chain, they're working 12-hour shift, and they are really quite overwhelmed and tired. Probably I can ask Raj to share your perspective. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Rick. I think I'm going to come up with a hypothetical family. So this family is actually based on actual patients of mine, but these are not confidential. So these are just major themes from these different patients that just put together. So this family has a grandpa, grandma, husband, wife, and 3 children. So the grandpa is a taxi driver. So he's since the COVID situation, his income has gone down by 80%. So in the past, he used to have about 20, 30 passengers. Now if he gets 5, it's already a big thing for him. And as such, he's at home all the time. And usually when he's free, he'll go to a coffee shop, meet his friends, have coffee. But now he can't do that. So he's actually very, very frustrated at home. And due to this frustration, he starts to have some depressive symptoms. He's feeling down, he can't sleep well at night, he's arguing with his wife more. And let's talk about grandma. So grandma, she has anxiety problem. So she's known to have anxiety disorder. She used to see a psychiatrist in the past. So she, one day she went to a market to buy some grocery because she normally does grocery. So she was queuing up a long time outside before she's able to enter. She was already very frightened that so many people, am I going to get this COVID that people are talking about? And when she went in, she can't buy anything. All the grocery, everything finished. So she just broke down, crying. And she went back home. Normally, she has these mahjong kakis that she meet, but because of COVID, she can't go out anymore. So some of them suggested, hey, there's this app, Zoom, we all can meet each other, but her phone is this Nokia phone. So she can't really meet this friend. So she started having her anxiety problem back, and she had to be back on medications, and she's very disappointed with having to be back on medications again. The husband, or the main breadwinner for the family, he works as a technician. So he is currently unable to work because of his non-essential service. So he's just staying at home. He's got text from his friends saying that they might be retrenched. So he's becoming more and more anxious also because he's worried about the finances. He's worried he might lose his job and how is he going to provide for family. His wife, mom, she does part-time teaching. So, she can't actually teach now as well. She's a tutor because of COVID as well. And so she's at home. So financially, she's affected as well because she's unable to bring in enough for the family because of her situation. So she's under immense stress. So that's actually causing conflict between the husband and wife. Probably the person who's not affected is eldest son, who is 18, he's got a break from NS, so he's actually very happy at home. He's a loner, so he's very happy just reading his books, The only thing that annoys him is his two younger siblings who are always fighting, arguing over computer. So otherwise, he's very happy. He's really not affected by this, at all. The daughter, she's 16. She's supposed to sit for O level, but she's not affected by O levels. She's more worried about not being able to meet her friends and not being able to meet a new boyfriend, and also, not able to watch favorite Korean dramas in the PC, because they only have one PC in the house, which her brother, who's doing PSL, is using. So brother is actually the youngest child is actually a very bright boy. He's always top in the school, but because of this stay home, and study from home, doing homework, lecture, classroom, everything from home, he's actually getting more and more stressed. So he's actually not coping well at all. So he's actually very, very anxious and probably the most affected person in the family. So this is actually based on real stories of different people I know and the overall team. So you can see how different age groups, people from different age groups are affected because of the situation we are in now. So back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. I think you actually painted this, you consider it as a fictional family, but I think that it can be really a reality that many families may be facing. And you help us to realize that it's not just individual facing worries, anxieties, but when you put them together in one family, the whole family can really feel the intense stress, and the conflict can take place because everybody are struggling, feeling the discomfort within them, and we become short-tempered. I just heard of one friend who told me that they have never been used to staying so long as a family during the daytime, and they start quarreling. And I suppose that what you said really made me understand better what may be going on in many family households. Thank you. Maybe I ask Win to share his perspective.
Yeah, I suspect my learned colleagues on the panel and myself, we speak not just as panelists, but as people who are going through the thing ourselves. So we also, like all of you, dear friends, we also are going through this and learning how to adjust to this. So we are one with you. We are not just somebody up there trying to say this or say that. So these are things very, very, very real to us as well. I think my two friends have already outlined very clearly the description of the new situation we find ourselves. I think a recent article on grief has helped me. I think we all know that grief is the response of loss. And overnight, we have lost a lot of things. We have lost normalcy. Our normal week cycle gone. How we normally do work gone. Our usual income gone. All these are losses. Or even the descriptions that Dr. Raj and Posh have mentioned. So virtually everything that we are used to is no longer there. So all this creates a sense of loss, which leads to grief. And not only do we lose things, we also lose our usual support systems. We look forward to a jog with your friend every night, or we look forward to having coffee with your gang downstairs. But all this now cannot. So these things that used to give you some joy in life, now also cannot. We find ourselves not able to go window shopping, or even now I cannot order from Amazon some more. They don't deliver to this part of the world. So many of the things that we used to give us a perk is not there. Or even our religious services, whether mosque or church or whatever, that often gave us some comfort. But now that also cannot. The big gatherings also cannot. So we have lost normalcy, both in the way we run our lives and the usual support systems that used to give us some kind of joy during the week, all gone. So the usual stages of grief that has been mentioned for many years after the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is, number one is denial. No lah, this one only short term only lah, or it's something in Wuhan far away, it won't affect us, so denial. Number two is anger. Why my life changed so much? So we hear a lot of descriptions about anger. I also got frustrated. Why must I do Zoom all the time? I am someone who is so championing face to face. I got frustrated, man. I got angry that I have to meet people on Zoom. I had to cope with anger. Then bargaining. Okay, 2 weeks, or 1 month. Then after that, okay already, 1 month. Then we find, not so simple. Even the bargaining doesn't seem to get us what we want. Then we go into some degree of depression. So some of you are feeling tired, switch off in life. That could be part of the grief response. You just no energy, no heart to do anything. And sometimes knowing that it is grief may give you some encouragement that this is not something extraordinary wrong with you. Because there's a lot of pressure now, actually. Yeah. Now you got a lot of time. Now you must write your book. You must do some breakthrough thing. I say, ayo, there's even more pressure. You know, I'm just trying to survive this. So there are days when you just don't feel like doing anything, when you just feel like sleeping, actually. And that could be part of the grief response. Then they say the fifth step is acceptance, where we come, okay, this is now the new reality. What are some good points you can find? What are some things we may have to let go for a while? Then we accept the situation and we find the energy to build a new normal, so to speak. So I find that grief is a good way to understand what we are going through. So we are built for movement, for example. Now I cannot go running. So how can I move in the house or around the house? We are built for community. Now I find myself reaching out on phone. And sometimes phone actually is more effective than Zoom. I talk to some friends and I've connected with people I haven't connected to for a long time. Or if I do go out, I do little things like the guy who tests my temperature. I said, how are you? Thank you for doing this. So a small human exchange. Or I go into my pharmacist, ask my pharmacist, how is your day, whatever. So I try to put in as much human interaction within my boundaries. So some of you may be more shy, you're not used to this, but I find that how do I make more just human connections that's within the system right now, just to say hello to people. So these are the things that come to mind, and I'm describing things I'm going through myself, by the way. I am recognizing all this as I grapple with this situation. So maybe the first thing is give us permission to grieve. Okay, man, this time really sucks, man. This is a very terrible time. I'm going to be grieving, and that's normal. And maybe even accepting that could be a first step in coming to terms to finding some kind of semblance of rationality in this period.
Thank you, Suin, for the insightful reflection, reminding us that we are grieving. And I think I like the way that you reminded us the process of grief, the stages of grief, that when we grieve, we grieve of loss. We used to be able to do something, but now we cannot do it. And that's why we feel a sense of sadness, but that may lead to anger, being frustrated that we have to now do things in a different way or a new way that we don't need to do it that way in the past. And it can lead to depression when we feel tired, we feel very, just don't want to do anything and feel very down. But I think you mentioned about acceptance. There's a need to see that the grief will move towards acceptance, where we accept the fact that things has changed so that we become creative and know how to work within our boundary. As you mentioned, finding human interactions within your boundary. I think that you used one phrase that was very good. You mentioned that we need to give ourselves permission to grieve and not be quick to say, be stoic, and try to think that I cannot feel that way. But I think there's a need to have a permission to grieve. Wonder whether Raj and Posh got
Can I just mention one thing
sorry.
I forgot?
Yes.
This 5 stages is not a neat linear stage. You can go back and forth. Sometimes you already reach stage 3. Tomorrow I go back stage 2 or what. So all the experts will tell you, don't expect this to be a neat linear expression. It is to and fro.
Thanks. Yeah. Anything from Raj and Posh about this matter about grief or anything?
Yes, like what Dr. Tan said, it's actually stages. So when someone goes through grief, they actually have to go from stage to stage. So acceptance is usually the final end product when everything is resolved. But sometimes people get stuck in certain stages, for example, in denial or anger. So and they can go back to the previous stage. So it's really moving down the grief path that is essential. So if someone is stuck, they're not moving down, and that can give rise to anxiety, depression, and ongoing problems. So I agree with Dr. Tan.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. I'm going to move on to the next part of the question. And before I move on to the next part of the question, I thank the participants. I already see 2 questions in the Q&A panel. For the rest who didn't realize, maybe you have just entered into this webinar, we welcome you. Do go to the Q&A panel that's at the bottom of your screen to place your questions there, post your questions there when you are listening to our panelists discussing and sharing their perspective. You may even vote those questions that's already there that you felt that you resonate with what you are thinking or feeling, so that we can answer those that are more popular ones. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on now to the next part. I'm just wondering, in days ahead, what it's going to be like. Now, some of us are already feeling the discomfort, maybe already begin to start grieving, or some of us are feeling frustration, anxiety. But now that we know that safe distancing is going to be something for a long haul, we can't just imagine after the circuit breaker in 1st of June, everything will be back to norm, because I think our authorities has also alerted us that it's not going to be. For a long haul, things is going to change, the way how we go about functioning. So my question is that, knowing that COVID-19 pandemic will lead to long-term economic crisis and may even cause unemployment and poverty, what are some things that you may think that individual or society may be facing ahead? You know, I just give you some, just recently in the news, I read, CNA reported that calls from new clients to mental health hotlines have gone up. CNN reported that calls to US Federal Crisis Hotline Disasters Distress Helpline spiked 891% in March year-on-year. Even a survey by Chinese Psychology Society done in February this year, they actually surveyed 18,000 people and tested them for anxiety-related issues, and 42.6% of them registered a positive response. I'm just wondering, in days ahead, what's going to be like. So maybe if Suin can begin by sharing with us what you think is going to be for us in the days ahead.
Well, actually, I may be the least qualified to give any sort of projections, apart from saying that we really need to think through how we're going to be like this for a while. Apart from the initial shock and denial or anger, then we sit down and say, well, how do I structure my life now? How do I do work now? How do I find a bit of space and Sabbath now? I mean, time to be alone now. So we have to do the hard work of thinking through this for this foreseeable future. I'm very clear, and maybe that's why I like to let the next panelist take this, but I'm very clear that we all will experience this very differently. The family that Dr. Raj mentioned, this one scenario. Some, usually the more well-off, would have more access to more things. Those who are struggling, who are daily wage earner, would have more struggles. So I think you can sort of make a projection as though that it's going to be the same for everyone. All of us with our diverse resources to cope will be coping differently. And I think the discussion has already started. What we are trying to do now as a country is, and in most countries, is to prevent the spread of the disease, that's all. But the other implications for economy, for mental health, these are now coming on stream, and we have to discuss this in more seriousness now. It's not just stopping the spread of the disease, which is what we have to do, but we are more than just physical beings. We are economic beings, we are spiritual beings, we are relational beings, and how do we do all these things now? I am not sure anyone has the answers, but I guess, and again, this is maybe not relevant, but I think of my parents who survived World War II. Their life changed overnight. The bombs came, and they were under Japanese occupation. And they too had to find the resilience to cope and change. And I think here we have to do the same as well. Partly, it has been difficult for us because we have been very blessed to be in Singapore, where life by and large is very structured. There are many things in place. And so for us, this is a huge change. Whereas for those who may be living in parts of the world which are more chaotic, they may be a bit more used to chaos. But for us, we have been very blessed. This is a great country to be in, but it does mean, therefore, that the change is going to be more drastic and that we need to work harder. I have no crystal ball. I think this now, as a country, as a nation, as a world, to now sit down and think, how are we going to answer the subsequent questions, not just the physical health questions, but economic questions, mental health questions. I don't have the kung fu to answer all this.
Thank you, Suin. we can ask Posh to share what you think about the days ahead, what we're going to be facing.
Thanks, Dr. Tan, for sharing, and Rick, talking about this is about embracing change. Normally, to build resilience, you need to embrace change. But right now, we are not just talking about persons with mental health issue, but also general public. So the thing is, we have all sort of people here of different personality, stronger personality and weaker personality. The thing is, like, we should stop assuming that there are some people who are always very cheerful, they are rich, they are well-to-do, so they should be fine. But this situation can affect anyone of any background, of any financial status. So it could affect anyone. So when we first introduced the complimentary online emotional support, a lot of people start saying, oh, you mean a lot of persons with mental health issue? I said, besides that, we also worry about the general community. How are they coping with the sudden change? And suddenly a lot of announcement, and suddenly, you have the circuit breaker, and next moment you have extension of circuit breaker. So we must be mentally prepared. And for example, when we had the first panic buying in Singapore, I was being questioned by some of my friends or some of the journalists asking me, are they crazy? Are these people crazy? That's why they are involved in the panic buying. I said, no, I mean, like, we are just human. We get panic. We get anxious. We worry over the uncertainty. That's why they react some such way. So we have to be very kind when we make all these comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Posh. Raj, would you like to share? Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Posh, for saying that it can affect anyone. I agree with that. In fact, and like what Dr. Tan said, what we are facing now is more akin to actually World War, actually. It's not so much like a national disaster. A national disaster only affects one part of the world, but this is like the whole world is affected. So in fact, if we go by what happened during World War, post-World War, there was a lot of mental health issues. So a lot of people are down with depression, anxiety, PTSD. Even those soldiers who are facing, the war itself, a lot of them were down with PTSD. So, if we look at that, following the COVID pandemic, we're going to have another pandemic, the mental health pandemic. So what really happens is, what we're facing now is a protracted stress. For example, if you see a snake suddenly, you go into fight or flight mode, right? So you either run away or fight with the snake. Okay, I suggest run away lah. So our body is prepared, so our adrenaline pumps, our heart starts beating fast, our muscles become tense to prepare us for this, enemy that we are facing. So in COVID situation, the enemy is, we can't see the enemy, it's invisible, but our body is reacting in such way. So we are in this threat mode. And so that is a problem. So the more we are in this hyper aroused state, the more likely that we are going to develop some sort of mental breakdown if we don't do anything about this. But again, it's very hard to do something about this because it's a natural response. So we actually trapped in fact, our reaction is normal in an abnormal situation. So and it's going to affect all of us. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, that any of us can be affected, and anyone, the panelists, yourself, Rick, so any of us.
Yes.
So it's hard to predict in the future how things are going to be, but at least from our past history, what happened in World War and all that, we can be prepared to a certain extent. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, panelists, for helping us to diagnose the situation here. I like the way that one of you mentioned that we are all unique and we may experience this in a very different way. So that gives us a sense that we are special, and then each one of us, whatever we are going through, we don't need to be pigeonholed in a certain way. But yet at the meantime, know that there is hope, know that there's a chance for us to know how to deal with this. And I know that many of the participants now will be very keen to want to hear from the panelists how therefore can we mitigate the situation, or like how am I going to deal with the anxiety I'm feeling, the stress that I'm having right now, how am I going to deal with all these things. So I'm going to now ask the panelists in your expertise to share with us. For example, Raj, how can we handle our anxiety? How can we deal with depression? What can we do now? Because you mentioned that it's invisible enemy, we're in a hyper aroused state, you know. So how are we going to process this, you know? So please let us know, Raj. I also want to know.
I also want to know. So from what I know, maybe I can say a few things. So I think first, prevention to a certain extent is still possible. So for example, first thing we need to do is like what Posh said, acknowledging it. So acknowledging that we are vulnerable. So some people, they live in denial. They think, oh, this is not going to affect them. COVID situation, they're fine. They can weather through this. It's only 1 or 2 months. But that's why we say it in February, and we are still here. So being prepared mentally and acknowledging that we are as vulnerable as anyone else is very important. So we don't fall into that denial, fallacy. So second thing is really to look into our coping strategies. All of us, whenever we are stressed, we go into this normal curve. So the more we are stressed, the more we use our coping strategies. But once we reach a peak, maybe our coping strategies are not enough, and then we start decompensating. So when we decompensate, when we go down the graph, right, that's when all the anxiety, depression, fear all becomes overwhelming, and you're at risk of developing mental illness. So you really have to look at your coping strategies. Some of us may have coping strategies. Some may have negative coping strategies, for example, smoking or even substance use, alcoholism. You really need to look at what are some of the positive coping strategies that you can adopt. And there may be some people who may not have any coping strategies at all because they're so busy with work or family and they don't really have time for themselves. So I suggest that these people to look at things they used to do when they're younger, in their uni days or school days or even their 20s, 30s, what are the things they used to do that put them in a relaxed state? It could be something as simple as reading a book or playing a game or talking to someone, cooking a meal, dancing, singing, whatever it is. So think about it and start doing it because you need to have a me time, at least 1 or 2 hours a day. If you don't have that me time, it's a bit difficult to cope with the situation. So that's just one thing. Of course, third thing is also to think positively. Even in our current situation now, we can still think positively. Even with circuit breaker, there are positive things as well to look forward to. Some people, due to circuit breaker now, they're at home, they are together with their loved one longer. They have free time to do things that they couldn't do last time. So, rather than thinking negatively that, things are going to get worse, also start thinking positive. And of course, we usually will not be able to tell ourselves if we're experiencing mental illness. Usually people around you, family members, loved ones can actually tell and grasp this faster than you. So it's important that we keep a lookout for others, for each other, our loved ones. And if you notice that there's a change in the person, hey, look, this person is much more quieter or more irritable than usual. This is not his usual self, So really ask him, are you doing okay? Do you need help? And if the person needs help, then, we should direct him to help. But later, I think we'll go through, where we can seek help. Thanks.
Thank you, Raj. So what I learned from you is this: first, acknowledge. Don't deny what you're going through, what you're feeling, the emotions as well. Second is coping strategies, right? And I must also identify if I got negative coping strategies, right? So if I have negative coping strategies, it can make it worse. If I go drinking, smoking, that will not help. Actually, it can get worse. It may even cause family conflicts and things like this, right? Yeah, but I think you mentioned that think back what helps in the past and the need to have some personal me time, a time that a me time you mentioned, a time where you can be silent and be still. That's good. And you mentioned about think positively, which I also want to find out how to make sure that we don't fall into denial mode. Think positively can become a denial mode. It won't happen one lah. It won't happen one lah. So I do need to find out what do you mean by think positively. So before that, just the fourth point, community. You mentioned the importance of community. So you mentioned look out for one another and allow other people to look out for you lah. So maybe when you say think positive, can you just share a little bit what you mean more? Then maybe I can just later on invite Suin and Paul to also add their thoughts about what you have just mentioned. Thank you.
And sure, no problem. So the think positive thing is actually a psychological theory lah. So if you go for therapy, the psychologists will actually look at some of the negative thinking you're going through, and then they'll actually try to say, hey, not everything is negative, even in your current situation, there are things that are positive, but we have a tendency not to think of the positive things. We always tend to focus on the negative things in our life. So of course, I'm not saying that, to the other extreme where you completely be in denial, but even in your situation where it's so bad, right, there are also sometimes glimmers of positive things, and really think more about that rather than all the negative. Yes, the negative things are there. It's difficult to forget about it. But also from time to time, think of some of the positive things that's happening around you. So then you realize things are not as bad as it is. And it's not just you, and the whole world is actually going through this as well.
That helps. Thanks for the clarification. Suin and Posh, any point, anything they want to share with regard to what Raj has mentioned?
Well, I guess we have to begin by asking what does it mean to be human? And human beings, we are defined by various things. We are physical beings, and some degree of movement and exercise, proper rest. These are all linked to mental health as well. I mean, how our bodies function would also impact our feelings as well. So getting adequate sleep. I have a friend who takes walks at midnight because there's nobody around. He wears his mask and then he walks around. So everybody has to be creative. Some keeps running round and round their house, inside the house, small area, but do marathon inside the house. And that's how they keep their body functioning. So we have to respect that we are physical beings. So how do we now do exercise? Could just be walking outside and come back. Wear your mask, don't walk with family, whatever, but you can still do something. So physically. Emotionally and relationally, I think that would be the challenge. We can't go out and meet people, or very rarely, and we connect on Zoom and all that. And this is never as satisfying as having a cup of coffee in front of a friend. And so we have to come to terms with this new level of connecting for a while. But what I've done is sometimes I call people. Somehow sometimes it's for an old friend talking on the phone. It's something which I did before. It's not something different. And that seemed to give a certain sense of familiarity. I also connected with a friend I haven't connected for 30 years because of the blessings of Facebook. So I said, now is the time, because everybody now got a bit more time. Then I have connected with a friend in Melbourne, in India. So I'm now trying to explore new ways of connecting, both with people in my present circle, as well as, in some sense, the joy of reconnecting with friends I haven't talked to for a long time. So I'm trying to see how, for this period, how to fill that emotional, relational vacuum. And of course, people in the home itself, and that has been mentioned many times. The people in the home, the strengths and weaknesses of the relationship will now all come up. Last time we can escape from each other a bit, go to work, go to school. Now you're with everybody at home all the time. And bopian, we have to now step back and ask what is the quality of our relationships at home, and how can we now manage this better. And we realize we have diverse degree of ability to change things. You may want to change, or people don't want to change, or whatever. So this one is going to be a bit more complex, and I think I will look for help from the other panelists. Occasionally, what we are called to do now, whatever work, if you are working and you can still work, it took me a while. The first week, I really wasn't feeling in the mood to do anything. Subsequently, I began to do extra reading for a book I was going to do. I found my energies slowly come back in the second week. First week, I was still maybe going through the stages or whatever. But the second week, I said, okay, I can really do some reading for books I'm supposed to write and things like that. So that's my world. I do some writing as well. But in your world, how do you now reconnect with what you've been called to do? And that one, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. And I think there's also a need to look for some meaning in what's happening. So in that article by the Harvard Business Review, it said the 5 stages of grief, they now put a 6th stage. There must be some meaning. You must understand the why of what's happening. And here, whatever form that comes from, we come from different religions, we come from different ways of finding meaning. But the question of why is all this happening? How do I find some kind of spiritual or framework to understand and to find strength? If you believe in a God, how does that God help you or whatever? I think we cannot totally dismiss the transcendent aspect of human life. So whatever religion, There is an element in us that wants to look for something more that can give us some meaning in all these difficulties we are going through. So maybe it's a time to revisit spiritual issues, whatever form that may be. So I'm not here to push any particular religious perspective, but all of us in whatever platform that we find ourselves, how do we connect with something bigger than ourselves so we can find meaning and strength? So we are physical beings, emotional, relational, vocational, spiritual. We have to reinvent ourselves in all these 5 areas. How are we going to attend to these 5 areas so that we can find some semblance of being human in this new reality?
Thank you, Suin. So, Dr. Raj was giving us this sense of acknowledge, coping strategies, think positive, community. Now we have Suin, who actually shared with us that we are physical being. We must look at our emotional and relational side of things, our vocational side of things, and also meaning, the why. Thanks for this very helpful insight. Posh, you want to share on your point and your perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Ray. And thank you, Dr. Tan, about your self-help strategy. So my turn to share is that there's a need to take time to adjust to the change. And we must be patient. So many a times, especially me, myself, is a workaholic. So most of the time I'm working and talking about mental health. Suddenly, you know, the pace is so slow and everything. And I need to adjust to this. See if anyone over here, you know, you need to be patient and stop asking yourself, why am I like that? You know, why am I feeling that way? Be patient to adjust to the, you know, the changes over here during the circuit breaker. Be patient with yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. And secondly is, you know, yeah, Dr. Tan is right. Talk to someone, stay connected, talk to someone, speak out, you know. There are some people who say, you know, are you sure I need to talk to someone? It's okay, you know, I think I can handle. Most of the time we think we can handle. Most of the time, you know. Yeah, but we are human after all. We do have our challenges in life. So that's another thing is like, don't make comparison. The thing, you know, how come my neighbor is able to make it? How come my sister is able to think positive? How come I can't adjust to this? How come I'm feeling so boring and feel lost suddenly? So don't make comparison. You know, we are different in many ways, and we do have a lot of online programs. You know, Anchor, Thai, and Stage, and everything. A lot of, you know, dancing program and everything. Maybe we can log in and try to enjoy all this, which has been put up for us, you know, recently, and try to avoid negative updates, especially before sleeping time. Yeah, before sleeping is that, you know, checking all the mails and everything, all the updates, all the WhatsApp messages, you know, how many number of people get infected, then you become very disturbed and then you can't have a good night's sleep. Listen to soothing music or whatever. And if let's say you feel overwhelmed, you know, you see that have poor sleep, poor appetite, no mood for a period of time, maybe you can start contacting the professional. There are many services available. Thank you.
Very good.
Wow, I'm really feeling very, very, it's really helping me. Okay, it's really helping me. Thank you so much. Thanks, Posh. You reminded me that we must be patient. And sometimes, yeah, you're right, you know, especially many of us who are working, and especially we just feel like we need to, we have this kind of self-expectation that we must work in a certain, we must recover quickly because we got to get this thing done, get that thing done, you know. But you give me the permission to take time to adjust, and it really helped. You also give me permission to tell me not to compare. Maybe others can do it better. Maybe I take a longer while, or maybe their method is not the same way as it doesn't work for me, but it's okay, you know. Nor do I expect other people that I do it this way and it works. You should be doing it the same way as mine, you know. Why you're not recovering or doing better? So that helps a lot. Then you mentioned about joining activities. And I think there are quite a lot of online now where they have exercises or even culinary classes and all these things that can help us be active at home. And I love the part, avoid negative updates. I think I don't think it's just before I sleep, but when I wake up, I want to be the first thing I will be reading is the news, all right? It really make me feel down in the first minute when I wake up. So I've been avoiding it and tell myself to do other things as meaningful, read another book, do something else before I dive into the newspaper. And that is very helpful. I just want to highlight that. I know when I was looking at the Q&A, there was a question that already asking about how to deal with anxiety, and I felt that all of you have been answering it. And in fact, there was two participants. One is Zhong Pei Rong that actually share some coping strategies. Find a routine, like you make breakfast, create safe space, essential oil in your room, try new activities. That's good. Another person called Rachel Ho say, find someone, not necessarily your family members, that can confide and listen to your problems, and that's community. And that was brought up by Raj when he mentioned about community, look out for one another. And that's very helpful for some of the participants to actually mention that. I'd like to ask my panelists, before we go to Q&A, whether they have any more thoughts about mitigation, maybe how to overcome isolation, how to still build friendship, or how to get help when we're really going through very tough time.
I thought of one thing. I thought of the arts. A good book, a good movie, a good music. That's why you have to be very selective of what you see and what you listen to. I think they're also aesthetic beings, and I see Lord of the Rings again, or I read a book that really stirs my spirit. I'm surprised how this can actually help to give me, give me the kind of encouragement to press on. So this doesn't replace the other things, and all of us will like different things, whether it's a movie or theater or TV show or music or whatever. But I think there's also some power in the arts to actually to move us, to give us some strength and courage in life. I think the best kind of art is like that. So avoid those movies that make you depressed that one cannot. But choose those books and songs and music which are ones that will build you up and stir you. I think that is one other thing that came to mind. Each of us will have different kind of aesthetic taste, but something that will give us some encourage to move on.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Actually, when Posh said about the numbers, do you know how many of my patients told me they got so anxious because they keep checking? A lot. So in the end, I told them, don't check. So yes, so it's something that really stresses out a lot of people, the numbers, especially the worldwide figures and all that. But then they ask me, so how will I know, the government directives and all that? I say, that's why your family member comes into play. So if they read about it and then they read some of the advisories, ask them, then they'll tell you, they'll update you on important things. So try not to track the numbers, because that actually makes people anxious. Some people, not everyone, but some people do get anxious.
Thank you. Posh, anything from you? Yeah.
Well, my comment about Raj patient, right? About checking on the numbers. Even if you don't check the numbers, strangely, you have many friends who start sending all the messages, announcing all the numbers. You try to avoid it. The more you try to avoid it, the more you are receiving it. So at times when we receive it, it's like, okay, the government is doing something. Our helpful NGOs are doing something at the community to help. So it's in control. The number has reduced, and we have many cases that have recovered. So we have to adjust our negative mindset. And for Dr. Tan, you talk about reading books. This is fantastic. And in fact, for some people who are lazy to read a book, there are some people who read stories to you. For example, I get to know Eunice Olsen is reading out stories on her Facebook. You can log into her Facebook. Or Michelle Obama is reading out books, stories to you. So there are many other programs around. Thank you.
But let me add this. Hence, it's very hard to not do something. Don't think of the numbers. Don't think, cannot. So replace with what? So if I watch a good movie, I'm lost in that movie for 2 hours, or I get engrossed in a book, I'm lost in that book, or listening to somebody read a book to me. So it's not enough to say, don't do this, then there'll be a vacuum, and we cannot tahan a vacuum. Then you have to do something else. Hence, whether it's doing cooking or going to seeing a movie or whatever, or some religious practice like prayer or reading the Bible or Quran or whatever. You have something positive to focus on, and then you don't have to fill that space with the negative stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. That is very helpful. Arts therapy, adjust negative mindsets, replace with. We must replace with if so that our preoccupation can be more positive and meaningful as well. That's very helpful. I'm going to now move on to Q&A in our last 20 to 25 minutes. There are some very interesting questions that's been placed in the Q&A panel. For those who are participants, if you have not noticed, you can actually post your question in the Q&A panel or even vote those questions that resonates with you. Now, there's one that is really, everyone is talking about it, is now voted the most popular, now voted 8 now, okay? It's from Lim Yi Guan, and it says, there's also this thing called Zoom fatigue. Yeah, are we feeling fatigue now? How can we retain connections online without it feeling disconnected? Anyone of the panelists?
There are many articles out there already that reminds us that when we meet face to face, so much of our communication is really subconscious. How we look or smell or body language or that, we actually not aware of it, but actually it's going on all the time. So when it's Zoom, we only see two-dimensional, we see voice, look very hard, especially the connection not very good, the picture shake or that. So this takes a lot of energy from us because we're compensating for the loss of the other forms of connecting. And so I think this is a real phenomena. So I think we need to decide how many Zoom talks we're going to have a day, to space them out, to be even aware of the phenomena so we are not surprised. To be frank, after this, I'm going to crash already. After this, I find it so much more, the same amount of work I do face to face, the same amount of time when I do it online Zoom. Indeed, I can agree that it's much more tiring for me. Maybe for some cannot compare. Maybe for some people they can do it better. But for me, I agree with this person who asked the question. I find this kind of Zoom fatigue is very real for me, and I think the reasons are quite obvious. So then we need again to manage how we do Zoom lah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to share also one perspective, because I also read an article that mentioned that the reason why there's fatigue in video conferencing is because normally when we have face-to-face conversation, we don't have a video capture that show ourselves, right? But now in video conferencing, you can see yourself when you're talking to others, and it makes us more self-conscious, how we look, how we behave, whether we are smiling or not, and that added another dimension of stress. So the article actually suggested, if you feel so uncomfortable, turn off your self video capture so that you focus on looking at your friends whom you are talking to. So maybe that will also bring down the stress level. For some of us who are not comfortable to see yourself in the mirror. So that's a possible thing. Maybe Raj and Posh, anything to add?
Posh, you want to go first?
Other than the Zoom fatigue, I'll say Zoom anxiety.
Oh, yo.
It's just like the connection, you get so excited, where are you, Portia? So the thing is like, I think Dr. Tan is right, it's about like, maybe set, a limit to the number of Zoom meetings that you have. You have to take care of your own mental well-being as well. So you set the limit or the duration and take a break in between. You have to do that. You have to address this issue. I leave it to Raj. Raj has more to say.
Well, you all said everything, so I agree with you. What I was thinking is, Zoom, this kind of meetings is never going to be able to replace actually being there, right? So these are the next best thing we can do. But I think that the problem with Zoom and all that is also partly there's so much things to take in. Because I see like, sometimes 10 people, 15 people, 20, whatever they're doing, I get distracted. Hey, this person is doing something, walking away, and then I'm not listening to, the main part of whoever's talking. So there's a lot of distraction and setting up the technicality, and then sometimes someone in your house will suddenly open the door and you have to take care here. And there's so many things. I think your inputs are just overloaded, and it causes a lot of stress as a result of it. So again, it's a very new thing. I think after some time, we probably have some people doing research and have a better idea about Zoom fatigue and what can we do about this in the future.
Yes. Thank you, Raj.
I wanted to be positive as well. I try to be positive lah. At least I have some way to connect with my friends as opposed to not seeing them at all lah. It doesn't take away the fatigue, but I'm just telling myself, thank God I can see my friends. So that is what I try to tell myself.
Thank you. Thank you. So what I gather from all of you is control the number of Zoom meets. All right. Number two, as I mentioned from an article, switch off the self-view camera if you feel stressed, being self-conscious. Then I think Raj mentioned about control the number of participants because it's true. Somebody also mentioned that at one time you have 20 people that you're talking to, in Zoom, and it can be quite overwhelming for some of us who feel that there are just too many. So there is an article who also suggested don't have too many Zoom meetings that have a lot of people, right? A lot of people. Just have a few smaller groups talk and discussion, and that would be helpful. Minimize surrounding distraction because we have to attend to so many things. So maybe find a space more conducive and see positive. That at least we are able to see each other, and I agree. I would like to just suggest one more thing, which is have a variety of remote connection. Other than Zoom, what some of you mentioned, pick up the phone and start chatting on the phone so that there's a different way of remote connection, a variety, rather than just depending on video conferencing. I don't know, maybe that would be helpful. Just recently, I was talking to my dad, and I'm confessing, I've been using text chat to my dad, since the day he knows how to use text chat, WhatsApp. But that day I picked up the phone and talked to him. And it was just 3 minutes, but it was so enriching, I felt that our relationship increased 100% because I was like, I've been using text chat, but now just a verbal talking to him, how are you, things like this, and he told me what's happening. And it was quite meaningful. Yeah, so this is something. So I hope that we answer your question for those who, for the gentleman who talk about Zoom fatigue. I'm going to go on to the next one, all right, by Cai Chen Hui. Hope that I pronounced your name correctly. Unfortunately, mental health services and counseling are not considered essential services during the circuit breaker. I personally think it really should be under essential services. What do we do if I myself or a loved one is in crisis and needs immediate intervention? Tosh, maybe you're the one, man, can help us. Where can we get help? Yeah. Sorry, yes, yeah. Turn off. Yeah.
Actually, there's a whole list of mental health services available. We have like Fei Yue. This afternoon we have another Zoom discussion. Fei Yue is providing help as well. And we have the whole list of psychologists providing help. And for Silver Ribbon, we are providing online emotional support, and it's totally free of charge. So yeah, there are many services, no worries about that. And for whoever, I think later Reed is going to share the resource list, right?
They're showing it now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so you can take note of this whole list of services available and contact them. Yeah.
Very useful.
Anything to add on?
Yes, maybe while they are still showing the screen, maybe if Raj or Suin also, or especially Raj, because if they need help, for psychiatrical kind of counseling or whatever, yeah.
The psychiatric service is still essential, so that's not an issue. But the psychological service, what we're doing at the moment at IMH and various other government hospitals is the psychologists are actually doing it with Zoom. I know that Zoom fatigue, but they're actually very, very fatigued because they were telling me the other day.
Yeah, I'm sure they're very tired.
8 or 9 such patients they have to go through, every day. But they're still doing it over the phone, through Zoom, but they're working from home. So they're not actually, as much as they can, they're not traveling to the clinic, but they're actually still doing the counseling through the phone. In fact, for some cases, and they say it's even better doing the counseling through the phone compared to in person, because there are some patients, they are so anxious about meeting a psychologist, and it's actually much easier for them to do it over the phone. But of course, there's pros and cons. But the service is still available. Yes, it's less now compared to back then, but it's still available. And we're trying to streamline the counseling service and psychological therapy and all that for the more severe cases first, so they are triage higher. The less severe one, they're normally seeing the psychiatrists, because we are still essential, so they're coming to us at the moment. But eventually, once we are out of circuit breaker, then they will all be seen.
Thank you. So we see that there are helplines available for people who need help, and that the psychiatric advices or help is also considered essential service. So that's possible. I noted that I think some of us may be saying like the family service center, social work side are not considered essential service, and it's true. I am concerned too, but I also understand why the authority is doing this now of safe distancing. Let's all hope that when 1st of June or even before 1st of June, the numbers dwindle down to less than 10. I'm not encouraging you to look at the numbers anyway, but that when things are more controlled, that the authorities will begin to reinstate or allow all these social services to get back to quickly and to be helping those who are down and out as well. All right. Thank you for the question. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is from Nathaniel. What if I get anxiety from being seen on Zoom meeting, but my boss strongly insists on everyone to show their face? Oh, Jason mentioned, have a Zoom meeting with your boss to communicate how anxious it makes you. Well, that's a very good, just feedback. Give a genuine feedback to your boss. But maybe anyone else in the panelists have any other things to mention that? Yeah.
Well, I think at one level, this is not a Zoom issue. This is an issue of HR, an issue of company culture, whether people in your direct report can share frankly with you or not. So this may not be a Zoom thing. If it's not this, it'll be something else. Whether we can actually give feedback to our leaders or managers of how we feel. I'm not sure there's a one-size-fits-all answer for this. And how can we help the individual overcome their anxiety? That one maybe Raj and others can help their Zoom anxiety. But I think it's not just a Zoom problem. It's a relationship in the office, HR culture problem.
Yeah, so because sometimes we also meet through Zoom in the hospital. So our problem is actually confidentiality. So how can we tell it is you? So what we implemented is we just flash our our short while in our video so they can see, and then we just off it. So it's not that it's going to be on all the time. So in fact, there'll be just one person talking, but we do identify ourselves by just showing ourselves for a short while, and then we just off our video. So at least you know that whatever information, this confidential information we're talking about is actually within this group. Because the problem is security. So we know that Zoom security is really not the best. Yeah. So again, like what Dr. Tan said, it's also maybe at management level they come up with a system for these people who are actually having difficulties.
Thank you. So I think we can give our genuine feedback to our bosses. And I like the idea that Dr. Raj mentioned that we first look at have a short time where we are able to turn on the video. Then after that, permit one another turn it off. Actually, this is happening in home-based learning, even for my for my children, not my student, my children. They turn on, they measure temperature, but after that, even the teacher turned off her own videos, and they are actually still going through the lecture and homework. And I do hope that companies will begin to realize that this is okay, and they will start doing that as well. All right. Thank you. Just to highlight to all of us, if you wonder what time will this webinar end, it's a 1.5-hour webinar. We are now at 9:11. All right. We will still finish a few more questions before I will close the time, allowing the panelists to have their last remark. Then we will give you a slide again on the hotlines. All right. So let's go on to the next question. The next question will be on stages of grief. How do we guide and help each other through each stage, given our current circuit breaker measures? Like that we can only meet online and do phone calls. How can we help one another, or even our seniors who are living apart from us?
I can go first.
Thank you.
grief is actually a normal reaction. So in fact, if you leave someone to grieve by themselves, they'll actually go through the stages on their own. So they'll start off with denial, then anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. So they actually go through that stage by themselves. So only when they get stuck in one stage for a long period, then it becomes a problem. So in fact, a lot of people who are going through grief, you don't really have to do anything apart from providing support. And that support that I mean is the emotional support, being there for the person, being a comforting person to the individual. And of course, if let's say they start developing problems like more severe anxiety, or even more severe depressive symptoms, or suicidal thoughts, that kind of thinking, then there's something more going on. So then they should actually be assessed properly by a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor.
Well, maybe the first step is just to be aware of the phenomenon. Not everybody knows about this grief thing, the 5 stages, or that. Everybody knows, and maybe helping to educate as many as we can about the phenomena of grief, the stages of grief, the fact that you may to and fro. That alone may relieve some anxiety. Oh, okay, I understand what's going on. And well, you can't run away from being a supportive friend and empathetic listener. That means if your friend is going through an angry phase, he may whack you, scold you, then you're okay, I understand. He's going through an angry phase of grief. So I will not retaliate. I would just listen quietly without reacting. In fact, all this anger manifestation we see in society now, I can understand, you're so frustrated, you just whack somebody or spit at somebody. It doesn't excuse them, but the kind of frustration we can understand. So number one, education, that people actually know about this phenomena. What is this 5 stages, or now the 6th stage, or whatever. And secondly, we cannot solve people's problems at one level, but we can be an empathetic listener. We are here for you. We have listened, and so we don't react because we know of the 5 stages, so we won't react. And then, indeed, the matter is much more serious, and we have to refer to more professional care.
Yes. Posh, anything from you, Posh? Yeah.
For me, after hearing the 2 panelists sharing, we must be sensitive enough, and it's not about, oh, don't cry, don't think about it. I know some of you mean well, and sometimes you mean well, but you might make the wrong comments. It's okay for them to cry, let them cry, even for guys. Sometimes guys ask me, is it all right for me to cry? I'm a man, people will laugh at me. It's okay to cry, you're just a human. So, instead of asking them to think about it, invite them to talk about it. It's important to talk about it. Like Dr. Tan said, lend a listening ear. Lend a listening ear doesn't mean that you have to solve that problem. Ignore that. You don't be too stressed out, after hearing your friend out and say, oh gosh, I don't know how to solve the problem. Sometimes they come to you because they just need a listening ear. So just be there for them. And at the same time, most importantly, how to help others. At the same time, you must take care of your mental well-being. Self-care is important when you're trying to help someone. If not, you will get stressed out and you might develop depression eventually. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to share a personal anecdote. I think that we shouldn't wait till someone is really showing signs that they are breaking down, then we try to help. But I guess maybe some of us are already feeling a lot of tension within us. So let me share with you what happened. I have a lot of tension within me, but I didn't realize. Right? But there was a time when I was talking with a bunch of guys, my good friends, my good buddies. And we start talking about what's happening. And, I actually released my tears. I was telling them I'm worried about my family members. I'm worried, what if I got infected? And what if I die? No one to take care of my family. And it was a very safe place, where my buddies allow me to just let me say what I need to say, and I cry, and I don't feel paiseh, embarrassed that I can cry in front of them. And I realized that the release of the tension was so helpful, that it helps in making me realize that I'm really going through fear and anxiety. It's okay, and my buddies are there, and I feel safe, and it allowed me to articulate it out and release it out. It's no longer inside me, and it was very helpful. So my hope is that even participants among us will be able to find such a safe place, good buddies and friends whom you can really talk, and give everybody permission to just bring out our concerns without being quick to say, don't be so negative, what are you talking like this, that kind of thing. But allow each one a chance to just express it, and then affirm each other's struggle and fear, and that will be very helpful, I believe. Yeah. So thanks very much for the kind responses from all the panelists. I'm going to now answer one last question, but after that, I'm going to let the panelists have a last remark, maybe an encouragement to give to all the participants before we close for the night. So actually, I noticed that the other question is more on if you have a cheerful friend who appear down and deny feeling depressed. They say, I'm all right. But you know that this person is not so all right. How can we help this person face their situation and allow them to process their grief or their fears? Is anyone would like to? Maybe we can, so
basic rule of helping is we can only help people to the degree that they want to be helped. And as a helper of any sort of profession, we learn this kind of limit at some point. We desire to help, but we can only help to the degree that they are open. Of course, there are ways that I think Raj and Posh may share how to have a breakthrough in such connections. But so I have to come to terms that I signal my availability, my empathetic listening, and if they still say no, nothing wrong with me, I can only signal that I'm there for them and hope that at some point when they're more ready. I can also look for other people in that circle. Maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe they want to open to somebody else, and I have to handle my ego here. No, why shouldn't I be the one who help you? But sometimes you're not the one. Someone else they may feel more comfortable with, and I have to see who else I could mobilize in helping them. And like I said, going back to our spiritual meaning platform, I guess we can pray for them, whatever religious platform that we come from. When we come to the end of who we are, we have to find help in somewhere else.
Thank you. So maybe, Raj, have you faced patients who deny their situations, and is there a way you're able to help? Or what Sui mentioned, it's very hard. Yeah.
Deny the situation very often. Because even in certain condition, right, they're not aware that they have illness and they can't seek treatment. So usually the family members are the ones who bring them. So again, if this is a friend or a family member and the person is in denial, it depends on the severity of it. If it's maybe a bit of low mood, a bit of anxiety, you can still monitor, because we can't drag the person force against their will. So as a loved one or a family member or a friend, monitor the situation, be there, like what Dr. Tan said, that you are there for this person. See how, if the situation is getting worse, and it's okay to involve other family members, discuss what's happening. Is this person, getting more and more depressed and you're worried about risk, like, suicidal risk, then there are helpline numbers you can call. Like in the past, I worked for the IMH helpline. So once we get a phone call, what happens is we'll assess the situation. We'll actually send a team in. A team consists of nurses, sometimes doctors, to assess a person in their house, with their permission, with the family members, and we do the assessment in the house. And then we'll see how serious the situation is, and then we'll take it from there. Sometimes it's just a matter of encouraging them to seek help. And most of the time, when we actually go there and talk to the patients, they will be okay to see the doctor, because it'll be the same doctor who's talking to them there. So that's just from my experience now.
So Dr. Raj, I have to ask this: can we still do this now with the lockdown? Can we still go to the house and intervene and check?
The helpline, at least where I'm working, we are actually getting a lot of phone calls, a lot more than usual. So yes, we can still do this, because the crisis helpline and the crisis team are still essential service. So even recently, I had to send my team to someone's house.
Thank you. Posh, what about you? I think you will also face scenarios like this where people deny that they are mentally distressed or they are struggling and they need help. What do you normally do?
I mean, this is a very good question. A lot of people or concerning friends or family members will say, I think my friend need help. I think my daughters need help. The thing is, like, instead of assuming their needs, it's good to discuss with them that, hey, I'm concerned. I see that you have been losing weight. I see that you have been looking very tired lately. You have poor sleep, something like that. Rather than after attending this webinar, I think that you are having a depression or anxiety, you should seek help. So you are in no position to do that. So the thing is, like, it's good to discuss with them on your concern and see whether they're ready. So at times when I talk to some of the clients, I'm very curious. I say, what if one fine day you're relaxing? What would you like us to do for you? And then some of them say, let us live with dignity. Let us live with mental health issue with dignity. So it's a wake-up call. Many a times we just, maybe too excited or what, we think that we are the one of sound mind, want to do something more. But it's good to involve persons with mental health issue in our discussion. So what do you think? I'm concerned, And true enough, we have some cases we discuss with them and they just say, oh, we want more options, of hospitals. Due to stigma, they might not be comfortable to visit certain hospital. And I say, hey, there's a whole list of hospitals in Singapore. There are many services. Then at least give them options. They are more willing to seek help. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So to summarize many of your insights, one is we can offer presence, being present with the person. And maybe the person don't want to say anything, but because you are present, you are near. One day when the person really need to talk to, perhaps the first person that they may think of is you. So offer presence. The other one is indirect asking. Posh mentioned about, don't say, you depressed. But it can be a different way, more gentle and gracious way. You'll be losing weight, things like this, more indirect. Raj mentioned about a helpline, and I think that's good. We can actually start printing out the helpline sheet to everyone, give to everyone, so that it's not like you give to a person, I want you to have this, but hey, I have this for my own family, can I give one to you? So at least there's a helpline somewhere, and when this person is alone, and maybe we are not the best person, they won't look to us, they look at the helpline, they realize they can give a call, and they feel anonymous, confidentiality, they can talk to someone over the phone, and that would be more helpful. So that sounds we mentioned, maybe another person more suitable, we can also refer to. And also mention about spiritual means of like pray. Thank you so much. Just have a last remark from our esteemed panelists. Who wants to go first to encourage our participants? Suin, yeah, it comes to you, Suin, so must be you. Yeah.
Somebody sabo me again. But first of all, I want to say I learned so much from my colleagues on the panel. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a privilege to work with you guys. I'm sure a short webinar like this, we only touch on the surface of many things, but hopefully there's some greater understanding for folks to interpret what they're going through and some knowledge of places they can turn to for help. But on another level, I think this is an enforced stop for the whole country for us to rethink again what is really important in life. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have strong relationships? Our usual pace of life in Singapore, we will never have the time to think about this. So although there's so much problem and difficulty and challenges for sure, but it could also be a time given to us to reboot, to rethink what is life all about. So I think we all have our own different answers for that. So instead of just focusing on all the challenges, which there are many, but we also see this as a time to rethink about life. Thank
you, Suin. Yeah. So Raj, you want to go first? Go second, sorry. Yeah.
I like the slogan SG United, because it actually encompasses everything. We are in this together, and we need to watch out for each other. It's going to be a difficult time. We know that we anticipated, we're already there, in fact, we may not even have hit the worst part yet, but we are together in this. We're going to help each other. We're going to hold each other's shoulder, and we're going to be united. So just watch out for each other, and we'll pull through.
Thank you. Posh.
I mean, while you all are sharing about your thoughts and everything, I learned to appreciate that, we have the time to discuss about mental health, where we have frontline healthcare workers who are struggling at the A&E department or the hospitals, and at the risk of being infected. So I think we should learn to appreciate that we have this time together, stay connected, and exchange our ideas.
Thank you so much. Stay connected, a time to reboot, and a time to be united. We are in this together.
Amen.
None of us are isolated. That's great. Yes, we are in this together. Thank you so much, panelists. I'm going to now go on to the last 3 slides to show all the participants some of the helplines and what is up and coming. First, if you miss out anything today, we're going to upload the recorded Zoom webinar onto our Facebook, the Blessed Community Services Facebook. So you can actually access, now, wow, this is new to me too, right? That my backend tech crew are all committed to make sure that you have the recorded Zoom. So thank them for that. Next slide. Or before I go on, just to repeat again, back to the slide. Facebook is Blessed Community Services. All right, search for Blessed Community Services and look for the recorded Zoom webinar in a couple of days. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Just to let you know that Blessed Community Services will have another online community talk which may be helpful for you, because now most of us are staying at home. There might be conflicts and frustration because we are spending more time together. So there's this talk on 5 love languages, communicating love to your family. The QR code for registration and information are all found there. Hope that you can go to the web link and actually have a chance to look at this talk and even join us for the next webinar. All this talk will be hosted in a webinar just like what we are doing tonight. Let's give you a few seconds to take a look at the QR code and also the web link before I move on to the last slide. Okay, finally, let's go to the last slide, which is a very important slide for all of us. All right, this is actually done by Green Ribbon Task Force. All right, and Posh was the one who actually posted it on the Silver Ribbon Singapore Facebook, and I saw it and I thought that was really very helpful. So we are putting it up here. You may want to do a screen capture or take a picture of it. I believe that we will put it up. You can go to Silver Ribbon Singapore Facebook, and the poster is also there. All right, the poster is also there. You can search for it from Green Ribbon Task Force as well. I believe the poster is really online. So I'll give you just a couple of seconds to look at this, and you can capture it so it can be helpful for yourself or for your friends or for your seniors. Realize it's for all age group. Your youth, caregivers, children, seniors. There are so many helplines that's on for you. Okay. Now, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us again. We are so delighted that you join us. We really hope that it has been a helpful and meaningful time together, that it will both be helpful for you and also for your loved ones. Let's be united. We are able to overcome what is ahead of us, and you are not alone. You're not isolated. Safe distancing, but not social isolation. Thank you. This is from Blessed Community Services. On behalf of all panelists, we thank you for joining us. Thank you. Goodbye.